The lights are low. The room is quiet. Your fingers rest lightly on a small wooden planchette, hovering over a board marked with letters, numbers, and the word goodbye. For more than a century, people have gathered around spirit boards, most famously the Ouija board, asking a simple question. Is there anybody there? Some say it's just a harmless parlor game, a trick of the mind where tiny unconscious movements guide the pointer across the board. Psychologists call it the ideomotor effect. Our brains moving our hands without us realizing it. But others insist something else answers, something unseen, something patient. Stories stretch back generations, messages from the dead, warnings that came through, and sessions that ended with the planchette racing across the board as if somebody on the other side was desperate to speak. So tonight we ask, are spirit boards just toys? Or are they doorways? Because once you ask the question, you might not like who answers.
What do you see when you're in the dark and the demons come?
1, 2, married stories for you.
Welcome to Buried Stories. I'm Jeff Mercurio. With me tonight, Wendell Brown. Wendell, how are you?
Doing well. Interesting topic tonight.
Yeah.
Has some little voodoo to it.
I got you. Also with us, Steve Mercurio. Steve, how you doing? All right, getting jiggy with
Great,
it.
man.
All right, cool.
Hell yeah.
And then we
Moving
got
on.
Tyler as well. Tyler, you look good this evening.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I got to do my own little dance too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do the bowling ball.
Yeah. All right, Steve. So tell us a little bit about the Ouija board or spirit birds in general. What have you dug up?
Well, you know what? It was so interesting. We're doing a show on Ouija boards because, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and just by chance, I listened to this show called Ghost Bunny. It's with Bridget Marquette. She was former Playboy model, and now she has a show where she talks about ghosts and everything paranormal. She had a wonderful gentleman named John Kozik on, and he is from the Talking Board Historical Society. He's got a little museum full of Ouija boards. He refers to them more as talking boards. And man, he gave some fascinating information. For example, 1890, a guy named Charles Kennemer, he had it with the board. Helen Peters, they described her as like somebody who was off the map that they found recently in the history of talking boards. She actually asked the word Ouija. She actually asked the board what it wanted to be called, and it spelled out Ouija. And when she asked what that meant, it came back and said it means good luck. Okay, so I thought that was cool. Now this to me was pretty fascinating though. Why is it considered a toy? So, back in like the 1920s, when the IRS was kind of first starting up their work, there was a company called the Baltimore Talking Boards or something like that. And so they weren't paying taxes on the boards that they were selling. And the IRS actually took them to court. And what the Baltimore Talking Board or company or whatever they were called tried to say was, this is a religious object. That's why we're not paying any taxes on it. Well, they lost in court because the court said, nope, it's a toy. You interact with it. You play with it. It's not necessarily a religious object. Now, they tried to appeal that decision, and it actually, the Supreme Court of the United States wouldn't even hear it. So that is why it's considered a toy, according to Mr. Kozik. Yeah, Baltimore Talking Board Company. And so, you know, I the more we look into this, the more fascinating this is, okay? Because, you know, I was listening to a different show not too long ago that talked about how The Exorcist, the movie, was literally the thing that changed everybody's perspective in America about Ouija boards. Because before then, it was very common to see people using them, all famous people, not famous people. A lot of people had them in their house, right?
Yeah.
They didn't see them as evil or spiritually demonic or anything like that. And one thing Mr. Kozik brought in was he was asked a couple questions. Number one, the rules of the Ouija. And he goes, first of all, they're not rules. It comes down to the individual person, right? Whether you believe it or not. For example, one of the rules was you never play with it alone.
Yeah.
Well, that rule came in supposedly after The Exorcist. Why? Because Reagan in the movie was playing with it alone, right? And the second one was closing out with the term goodbye. He was like, dude, that's not a necessary thing. It's what you believe. So if you believe to close out a session, you need to go to goodbye. Well, then you better go to goodbye because it's intention. So very fascinating.
Wendell, have you ever used a spirit board, a talking board, Ouija board?
I have.
Oh,
Not in a group with some design or anything. It was just more entertainment.
gotcha.
When I was looking at this, I don't know that I'm a believer that it's a portal or anything, or if it goes to Z first, it's the devil, or things like that. Things you hear about the Ouija board, that if it goes to Z, it's like a demon or something talking to you. But remember when you were talking about setting a cup or a plate down on a table?
Yeah.
Jeff,
Mm-hmm.
and how the cup or the plate doesn't actually touch the table because of the negative space or negative energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one scientist's explanation on the Ouija board, is that you're actually pushing it, but you don't know you're pushing it. And it's with that contact, but not contact with your fingers. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's about as close as to a scientific explanation that I've seen for it. I know when we used it, it did some weird stuff. We were so stupid at that time, though, we didn't really know what questions to ask. Sort of like AI now. You
Right.
can be a wizard of everything if you know the right question to ask and how to ask it. So, again, I'm kind of on the fence for this. Would I tempt fate with it? I don't think I would. I wouldn't play around with it. But like if you guys wanted to get together and try it out, I would.
We're more than welcome.
But yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But I wouldn't seriously go in with the thoughts of having lunch with Satan or something, because you might just do it.
True. Tyler, in your little bit of digging, what'd you come up with on these spirit boards?
Well, the biggest thing I came across was kind of what Wendell said. It says an explanation of why it seems to move. Scientists say that the movement usually comes from the, I don't know how to pronounce it, ideomotor effect. I don't know if I said that right.
Yeah.
But it's tiny unconscious muscle movements made by the participants without realizing it, which I definitely don't believe that, because the amount of stories of people that use the Ouija boards, they all say the same thing, like the thing that moves on its own. And then if you're doing it with several people, are all those people really making movements without knowing it?
That night,
I don't
there's a
believe
good
that.
question about that. Is like,
And you can never use it with somebody that is sarcastic.
Right.
I think.
Right.
That's yeah,
Because you
fair.
can't believe in it. You know, you got that one funny guy in your group
Yeah.
that pushes it. You know what I'm talking. You can't be that kind of takes away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That
also
and
if
if
you
it's
got
like all
four people together, and you ask a question, you got to wonder, are all the three other people coming up with the same answer?
no.
No. So,
I don't think so.
right.
I don't think
Right.
so.
That and
I got you.
how do you explain the weird things that are happening while and after using the Ouija board? Because I know I've read some stories that if you forget to close it out or say goodbye, that weird things are going to happen to you afterwards.
Yeah, I read about the supposed rules to it, you know, and if you don't say goodbye, like stay around. You're not supposed to do it in your own home. There's a ton. Like Steve, when we were growing up, I remember every time I used it, we would start off doing the figure eight. Mine was always a figure eight
Yeah.
move. Yeah, so you did the same thing.
That's interesting because I've watched some people use a board, and it's amazing how each that it's kind of fascinating how each person kind of starts a session, right? Like
Yeah.
when we were growing up, Jeff, we always started by pushing the board, and we'd always pick, like you mentioned, like a figure eight or maybe a circle. Like as a group, we'd all like get it going, and it would be us moving it in the very beginning, and like we're going with it until somebody asked a question. Then we would kind of let it do its work, right?
Mhm.
So, but I've seen people that just kind of put their fingers on it, don't do any movements, don't like to get any insignia going or things like that. So it's kind of fascinating. Like, how did we all learn what we wanted to do with it? Like, how? Because we always use the shapes, and
Yeah.
and when we start, right. But other people, they just kind of lay their fingers on it awkwardly and look at each other. You know what I mean? So
Right.
how
I
do
don't
we
know.
get from A to B?
I guess it goes with, because it usually comes from your older sibling or something of how to use it, and it goes down the line like that. Like when we would go, it'd be going through the figure eight, and then you'd ask a question, and it would immediately answer, and then go back into the figure eight. And sometimes when you angered it, it would stop. So
Or I noticed when you anger it, it seemed to go much faster
yeah, that was the other
because
thing.
a buddy of mine, we tried to summon the devil, and Lord knows we were at home, by the way, too, like 13 years old. Here we are. Who knows what we invited into the home because we were doing a 666 on the board to start, right? So and I want to say we went to goodbye, but honestly, I don't think we did.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. And I
Just
remember that when my buddy would start cussing at the board, the thing went the planchette went much faster.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like, look, is it us pushing it? Is it not? I think from a look, I think, and let's start with intention. Everything I've heard about the Ouija board, the spirit board, witch board, whatever we want to call it, every person that talked about it with intention, right? What are your intentions when you start the session? Who are you intending to try to talk to? And what are your intentions with it? Like ultimately, what do you want out of it? And that was a lot of what I got on it, was what was your intentions? What were you trying to do? Because listen, I mean, if you were to open your front door and it's some stranger, you're not gonna just let it in, right? I mean, you know what I mean? It's kind of if you think about a Ouija or a spirit board as a window of sorts, which I think it potentially is. Um, you got to be careful what it is you're intending to do with it and who you think you're trying to reach out to, right?
Uh, I was just asking Steve what his intentions of using it were.
Well, back then, I mean, we were just trying to get a chuck. We were just trying to get something exciting, right? Like we didn't. I think that's the sad part is that, they'll sell these to kids, which again, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, shame on you or shame on you, because technically speaking, from just a purely human standpoint, it's just some cardboard, right? With some little foam things on the end of little plastic planchette, right? I mean, honestly, you think about what is it that somebody can actually do with it. But then on the flip side, you hear so many stories like you were talking about, Tyler, where people are opening up spiritual doors that they're finding hard to close. And so, and what were they intending to do? I know we were intending to speak to the devil and ask him questions. That's what we wanted to do.
There might be
And I
something too
remember,
why it's a triangle.
I was at
What's
Yeah.
Five
that?
Below a couple of months ago, and they were actually selling Ouija boards there, and they had a boys version and a girls version for some reason.
Yeah, there might be something to it with the shape of the triangle of the
Yeah, and I
planchette.
remember,
Yeah,
Dad has a story. He actually stopped someone from getting a Ouija board, I think at Target. Is that right?
That was at Books a Million.
Ah, okay.
Some lady was looking at it, and I happened to be walking by, and she's turning it back and forth. And I said, lady, you might want to put that back because you're going to open up something that you don't know how to deal with. And then she goes, thanks. And she put it down and walked away. I was like, oh, hey, well,
I was
What if
talking
she
to
came back after you are like, man, that
yeah,
crazy dude, and then you
I
probably.
was
walked
talking to
away
somebody.
and
I
she
was
just
talking
went
to
around
some.
the aisle and just picked it right back up?
I was
Yeah, kept
talking to
walking in
somebody today
circles
that
until
had.
Dad finally left.
Hold on,
Yeah,
hold
until
on.
he finally left.
When
I
we're
was
going
talking
to,
to somebody today that they took one to their grandma and grandpa's house, and their grandma and grandpa got furious and told them
yeah,
to get it out of the house, and not only that, destroy it, but don't destroy it on my property.
yeah.
Uh, the So yeah, there's a lot of different feelings for them. Do you guys have one in your house now?
Oh, I don't. As a matter
You
of
don't?
fact, I was talking to my wife, yeah, and listen, you guys know me. I have a lot of belief, but we're not really specifically religious by any means, but I have a lot of belief and I pray all the time. But, um, my wife and I were talking about it, and I'm like, honestly, I wouldn't buy one now, and I wouldn't want my kids to play with it just because I'm out there trying to paranormal research and everything, and the last thing we need is something here. I think that there is something about not trying to do that stuff at your house. But then think about it: if you're going to someone else's house, you're giving them a demon, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
opening up a window for them.
So you believe it. You
And then
believe
you're
there's something to it. You don't believe it's like a Monopoly game.
No, I absolutely have had my own experiences with it, right? And I do think that intentionally, and you know what? I'll even go as far as this. Look, I'm not going to say the planchette moves on its own. It would actually, if you think about it, it would actually make more sense that the humans working on it. Now, that doesn't mean like I'm sitting here pushing it to what I want it to say. It could be that potentially the spirits are using our arms, and you know what I mean? Like there's something out of all of our connection, right? Because think about it this way. If you do a seance, usually it's not one person sitting at a candle doing a seance. You have multiple people together intending to bring forth the spirits, right? I feel like there's something similar to the same thing when it comes to Ouija boards, right? You have multiple people around it usually, and you're intending to bring forth something to answer questions or to talk. So, is it us moving it? Is it the spirits moving it? I think there's a little bit of said to be something for both, right?
But you believe in it.
I absolutely think that there's definitely something to it, and I mean, I wouldn't play games with it anymore. No, kind of knowing where I am at now as an adult, like it's not something that I would want to give to my kids, or you know what I mean. I don't know if I'd be like Jeff and tell somebody, hey, maybe if I was a little bit more of a paranormal, like actual ghost hunter and had cards and stuff like that, maybe I'd hand it to him. Hey, call me when you need this.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe
After they're
after
buying the spirit board, like, hey, you're gonna need
Jeff's
this
store
later.
yes, given Jeff's store security story, he believes it.
Oh yeah, and not only do I believe it, but just going to Deuteronomy 18, uh, 18 verse 10, word verse 10, there shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or daughter pass through the fire, or anyone who practices witchcraft, or a soothsayer, or one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. Now, the creator of the universe divinely inspired somebody to write that down, and that's for a purpose, because a lot of the times, and this is my belief, is you're not talking to your grandmother, like I've said before. Those people are gone. Uh, you're conjuring up the people who roam back and forth looking for somebody to devour. And a lot of the times, yeah, if you're going to open up a doorway, because say your intentions are happy-go-lucky, well, these things can come to you as a angel of light, right? So you're like, hey, I can't find this. It helps you find it. Then later on, like a month or so down the road, it's telling you to do this or do that, or it's showing up in your dreams and stuff. Well, I mean, it deceived you. Now that the door is open and it's affecting you and probably those around you. Tyler, would you ever use one?
No, I would never use one. I 100% believe Ouija boards are demonic. Like you said, when you're using it and you're trying to get in touch with grandma who died 10 years ago, that is not grandma you're talking to. That's a demon pretending to be her. And if you don't say goodbye or finish it, that demon is staying with you, and you're going to have to deal with that until you find a way to resolve it. So I have no intentions of using it now or any time in the future, that's for sure.
So what
Hey,
about
on
you, Wendell? Do you believe it?
nah, not really.
No?
But, um,
Why is that?
just one of those things, though. It's like Steve and I always go back and forth on. It's just one there what's that saying where it may or it may not, but, uh, I may not believe it, but it still may be so. I think it's a game. The Ouija board, I think it's a game. I think it's been made into something mystical by people, just like candles can be made. Candles had a good function, but they can be really evil.
Right.
Chalk is just for fun, but it can be really made really evil in the right symbol. Um, but no, I wouldn't play around with it, Jeff. So I guess I am a believer, but only from the sense of why mess with it? I don't really need to. Like when I was young and I played with them, with my teenage buddies, we were just trying to. We were bulletproof. Nothing could hurt us
Yeah.
anyway. So,
Yeah.
so we were just seeing if it's a curiosity to see if something else is out there. I kind of put it in the same lines of a psychic. Do you believe in psychics? I know my sister went to one and told me some stuff, and Lord, if they're not real, this guy was good. He was a good con man. And so given that, there might just be something to him in the right environment at the right time. And I think most importantly, what Steve says, with the right intention. If you bring evil, because I'm a believer in you shape the universe will give you anything you think of. Have no doubt. It will give you anything you think of. Sort of like it's along the secret lines. Um, the universe shapes itself. That's why I think we're all connected. Everything's connected, and the universe shapes itself to what you're thinking and what you want. Even if you're thinking bad things, it shapes it that way. And I think Steve brings up a good point. It's what your intention is. And yes, I think you can bring some really weird crap to reality with the wrong intentions. But I think the universe brings you whatever you're asking for. But on a side note, have you guys seen this New York bombing thing in the last couple days? The 19-year-old that threw something that didn't explode.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the still shot of him they've been showing around? He looks exactly like, is it Linda Blair in The Exorcist? You made me think of it, Steve, when you were saying The Exorcist. Look at his face, his still shot that they have. They got this weird, like, right after he threw it, still shot. He
Yeah.
looks just like she did when she was laying in bed. It was eerie, um, looking at it. And another thing, I've had some weird blooming dreams this week, and we've been talking about this Ouija board all week. And I don't know if it's connected or not, but I'm not much of a dreamer usually, but
Right.
I've had some really weird dreams this week.
You know,
So
what's interesting, kind of going back to The Exorcist here for a moment. In Mr. John Kovic's or Kozik's museum, he talks about how people don't even remember the Ouija board being in the Exorcist movie, to the point that he has a poster up on his wall to show people like it definitely was in the movie, where Reagan actually talks about playing with it and things of that. Remember, for her, I think it was Mr. Howdy.
Mr. Howdy.
I think Mr. Howdy. So, anyways,
Oh, I'm sorry.
people always
Captain
forget
Howdy.
Captain Howdy.
Yeah.
So he has this photo to reference because people in that come and tour his museum and everything, they talk about how like they completely forgot that it was even mentioned in The Exorcist. They had no idea, and that's why he keeps this poster up that he made himself. He's like, look, no, I mean it's in the movie. Like they talk about it in the movie. Something fascinating though, as we get with better technology, I think one of the things that came up in their show, and I actually believe it, is that if we look at it right now, the Ouija board is probably one of the oldest tools, like for like paranormal investigation. Look, believe it or not, by the way, when I've gone, it was either Waverly Hills or Trans Allegheny. I think it was Waverly Hills that specifically said you are not allowed to bring Ouija boards into the location. I didn't ask them why, but I'm actually curious for them to have that kind of rule. I'm wondering what the heck happened, right?
Yeah.
Why do they have that as a rule?
do you guys think there's any good use for a Ouija board?
No.
Not okay.
You don't think you could think of a good use of one?
No, listen, from a pure standpoint of the paranormal, Wendell, I would never take one on a paranormal investigation anyways, because look, there's so much better technology. Look, if you want to think that you're speaking to spirits right now, I'm going to go pull out my ghost radio. Because in my mind, there's a much better, and it's much faster. There's a much better chance of potentially hearing a spirit's voice come through that electronic, noise or white noise than there is for me to sit here and try to spell out something for a half hour, right? I mean, there's so many better tools today that if you think you want to talk to a spirit, so many better tools potentially, again, with intention, right? Same thing with the Ouija boards. That it just makes the Ouija board or the divination rods or whatever, it makes that stuff sound medieval at this point.
You played with one before?
Yeah. Episode 2. Go back. There was one time.
Oh yeah,
Right. The
Go
one
ahead.
that I could remember a time going to one of my friend's cousin's house for a Halloween party. And we were downstairs. It was, like I said, it was me, my friend, and then something like 6 girls or something like that. But it was a Halloween party, And me and this girl were playing this Ouija board and stuff. And, I was young. I was irritating whatever was on the other side. I was taunting it, trying to be cool and stuff like that. Well, there was a record on a record player going, and it just swiped across the record, that whoosh, and then you hear that old popping as the record's going. Anyhow, about 3 or 4 days later, Frank was telling me at school, and yeah, that's his name, that his cousin had called him up and was talking about weird things going on in her house, and that they narrowed it down to that Ouija board because the mom made her take it out, throw it out in the garbage and get rid of it. And then things calmed down. So, you know, I think it's a tool of an ancient art of, trying to be magicians and using magic. So
Mhm.
it's just a newer tool to that ancient art of doing something. Just like the dowsing rods and you got spirit boxes now, Steve, like the ghost box and stuff.
Yep.
It's the newer generation of doing what they did way back in the days of Babylon and things.
But so really when you drain everything off of it, everybody believes in basically the eternal war between good and evil. That there are spirits/demons. This board is possibly a mechanism to key into that. But we all kind of believe, well, we all really do believe on here that there are things out there. It's just not your dead uncle talking to you. That it's something more biblical, correct? Am I on the right? You understand what I mean? Because if we're worried about what it's calling, then there's something out there that the what? What's the what? And we're all kind of believing in the what. There's something out there which we've kind of deduced in past episodes. It's not your dead relatives.
Right. And I'll go with the way it's from my perspective, Wendell. I believe what the Bible tells me. I inherently believe every word of it's true. And he's telling
Mhm.
you not to call on the dead because you're not going to like what answers.
Right.
So that's where I get it from. There is a spiritual warfare going on, and 1/3 of the angels came down with Satan here. And how do they communicate and get you to start trusting them? Well, they got to find a tool here. And once you start asking questions, it's like Eve in the Garden of Eden. He'll ask you a question, he'll give you an answer, but the consequences aren't going to be good.
How does that sit with you, Steve? Because one of your stories was, and like, I don't know, I guess what I'm asking, has your mind changed since we've been doing this? One of your stories, the bunk bed story, you and your cousin
Yeah.
and your grandpa,
Yeah.
and you thought that had something to do with your grandpa coming in, the door opening, you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
No,
That
I
story.
exactly.
How does that sit with you, what Jeff's talking about? Because he
Well,
does the
look,
same thing on the aliens as well. I mean,
yeah.
he doesn't really necessarily buy into that it's more demonic or like I said, the eternal struggle between good and evil, angels and demons, that kind of thing.
Look, I think there are different levels, Wendell. Personally, look, I do think you could talk to loved one. Here, I think the best way I've ever heard it is more like this. There's a wonderful psychic out of Cleveland, older now. I don't think, excuse me, I don't think she does a lot of potential work. I'll have to look her up again. Her name's Marianne Winkowski. Okay. She was she worked with the Ghost Whisperer. That show is like behind the scenes made about her. She actually gave them instructions. She was a consultant on that show. It's about her. All right. And she says, and I believe her 100% on this because I've heard her on Coast to Coast AM, and boy, does she work. She tell you some wonders. But here's what she says about people who pass away. She said, when you pass away, a couple things happens. Number one, you have a choice. You can either stay here, okay, or you can cross into the light. She said there a light opens immediately. And she said there are a lot of spirits who for whatever reason choose not to cross into the light. She said they stick around, and she said the difference between a spirit who crosses in the light, number one, she can't see them anymore. She says once they cross into the light, she can't see them. But she does say that those spirits come back and visit you in your dreams, or you get smells of the person. Like you get, those are the way that people who crossed over come back and visit you in your dreams. You'll get smells or something that was very popular to them. Let's say a necklace, bracelet, something like that may go missing for a brief period of time and might show up somewhere else where it's your loved one essentially saying that they're with you still, right? But she said the spirits that don't cross over, A, she could still see them, but B, she said that they affect you differently. They affect you electronically. Like you can get headaches, you can get anxiety. They can affect electricity itself. Like things like that. She goes, those are different. Those are ones who have not chosen this. She gave some great instructions. So to shorten this up a little bit, Wendell, I do believe people do make choices as to whether crossover. And think about it, the spirits who probably didn't cross over, like I believe that at 34, our old house, I think we witnessed my grandfather. I just didn't know it at the time because I never met him. I do think that was him, Wendell. I don't think he had crossed over. And she says a lot of spirits don't cross over because they still have some earthly business. They, whether it be loved ones, whether it be they're afraid to cross over because they're afraid to get judged. That comes across quite a bit. They have some final thing that they need to tell their loved one. There's so many reasons why she says spirits linger here, but she says you can definitely tell the difference.
Tyler, how about you? What's your view on it? Ghosts, demons, aliens, kind of
There's definitely
something
ghosts.
more than us.
There's definitely demons, but when it comes to specific like Ouija boards, I'm not sure if that's a good direct link to them. Now, I don't know if there's any direct link to them, but I do believe that they're around us and that they might give us like a little signal or some just type of showing that they're here and that they're thinking of us. But whether or not we can directly communicate with them, I don't really think there's a way. Like Dad said in the Bible, don't try to call unto the dead. And that's not anything I'm going to do. That's for sure.
Interesting.
Well, think about it. That the Bible itself might be the most paranormal book ever written, right? Think about it. We believe in a spirit, right? Who came, who served on earth, did good for mankind. And then he passed away. And what happened 3 days later? He rose from the dead, right? Like we believe in this stuff, right? So it's weird. Sometimes it's weird to me that we can believe, because I do believe that in Jesus, I know he existed for sure because history tells us that a man named Jesus walked this earth. I mean, we've talked about this before, right? So if you truly believe in your heart he had passed away and rose from the dead when he came back, was he spiritual? Was he flesh and blood, right? I mean, there's so much in the Bible that is paranormal in many, many different ways. And so, I think it's best to kind of try to keep an open mind. But you know what? I never doubt somebody else for their beliefs or anything else. I think it all comes back to, again, intention. And like I said, I mean, look, I'm not going to tell you you're getting on with a demon right when you enter the Ouija board, but I'm also going to tell you I don't really want to play with one anymore because I don't want to really take any risks or whatnot, So it's kind of an interesting
Yeah, it is interesting to bat it back and forth. Jeff, he surprised me a couple times, and sure I've annoyed him a couple times, but it's kind of neat to hear other perspectives. I mean, I'm an open book. I pray to God to solve his mysteries. So yeah, it's just interesting, and but I think you're onto something, Steve, with the intention thing. Back to our topic of the Ouija board, I think it's if you want to bring something, I definitely think we all have the power to.
Yeah, and I
Well,
would just finish this by just saying that one thing I noticed between all of us is that we've all, even though we might have different thoughts on
Mhm.
the Ouija board, right, or the talking board and everything, it's interesting that all four of us, with our diverse stance on why we would or wouldn't play with it, right, we all still came out to the same answer, which is all four of us probably wouldn't touch one again, right? Like, which is interesting. That's an interesting take on this. All for different reasons, we all kind of came to the same conclusion, and I think that that's fascinating.
well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show on spirit boards, Ouija boards. If you got a comment about this show or about spirit boards in general, leave them in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe. Until next time, don't forget to say goodbye.